Hello and welcome to this tutorial where I go over TexturingXYZ's latest product called VFace. I'm a beta tester on this product, and so I'm testing it out on one of my personal projects that's currently in progress. So what you get when you buy one of these products is a bunch of really useful maps. So first of all, you can see here we have the albedo. This along with the displacement is in 16K, so you have really high levels of detail here, really fantastic for gaining some realism in your characters. You then have calibrated displacement, so this is displacement, like there is also a multi-channel displacement, which I personally prefer to use because I like full control over my look dev. But if you don't have time to go in and calibrate yourself, or you just want to push this out quickly, you also have a calibrated version. I've got a grade node here, which is just lifting it up so you can see a bit more. But basically, this is all of the multi-channel displacement layers calibrated in the way so as they should be to match the reference. So then, yeah, we have the multi-channel. So we've got red, which is more of like, if we're considering it like just the tertiary detail, this is what I call a primary detail, and then the secondary is G, and then finally B is the tertiary. So you can see here the level of detail which is in this map, which is fantastic. It's balanced slightly differently to how the multi-channel maps were previously made, but I've been getting fantastic results with this. So yeah, it's looking great. Then we have utility maps. So this is like a hemoglobin map. I'm pretty sure this is the inverse of the hemoglobin map. And then we have B. So sorry, that's RG and then B. And so in the blue channel, we actually have a super powerful map where we have a mask where it's masking out on every single pore on the surface of the face. And so what this will allow us to do is really helps us to control, like, say, the level of specularity or the level of roughness within the pores themselves. And so this is a super, really useful map in the look dev process. So you then are also given a bunch of ID maps. So if I just reset this, so this also allows you to easily come in and say you just want to change the displacement intensity on the nose. This is a great mask to allow you to do that, and they have regions of every part of the face basically. So lips, ears, eyes, neck, and scalp, and the mouth region. So yeah, I think they just added these in here to give you as much flexibility as possible when you're doing the look dev and you don't have to go in and create your own masks. They also provide you two pieces of geometry, which these maps actually map to. So we have a head with eyes open and an eyes closed version, which is helpful in like depending on how your asset is set up initially. And with the eyes closed variant, it allows for easier projection for the eyelids, because when the eyelids are open, you lack the resolution or like the surface area to properly project those regions. So it's useful that you have two options, but I'm just going to select one today, and that's the eyes open version. So this is my character here, my personal project that I've been working on, and so what we're going to be doing today is wrapping this geo to my geo, and then taking advantage of all of these fantastic high resolution maps so I can get a very realistic result in my skin textures. So I already have this version here where the neck is separated from the body, and so then what I want to do is actually just hide everything which I won't be projecting, and just have these two objects. So I've made sure to line up the XYZ head as best I can to the eye position. You don't have to be exact, I've just roughly gotten it to the same position, and then everything else is just roughly in a similar position. So you just want it to be close, but it obviously doesn't need to be perfect because these are two very different meshes. So then what we can do is we want to wrap the XYZ to my mesh. So let's make sure that's on top. And then here I'm going to go up into Z plugin and we go to start Z wrap. So on the left here, you want to have in blue the mesh, the child mesh, and then the target mesh on the right in white. So all we need to do is now come in here and basically just select a point which relates to each side. So wherever I put a point here, I want to match that point and make sure it has the same number on the other side. So, and it doesn't matter which one you click on first or last, just as long as you select one and then the other. So we can do the same here. And basically with this process, all you want to do is hit the landmarks. So let's move this around. And so I'm just going to speed this part up as a time lapse. It's pretty self-explanatory. I don't think you need to hear me talking about the process, and it takes a little bit of time, but I'm mainly just trying to hit all of the landmarks. So you'll see me go over the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, and then I kind of let everything else just fall into place. So yeah. Okay, so I'm about done with that. So as you can see, I've just hit like very primary regions, and then we want it to naturally kind of blend between these points that we've laid out. So now something that I would recommend is saving these point locations in case something did go wrong and you don't want to have to go back through and do this process again. So you're gonna hit save here. I'm just gonna go to where I've got this. Just create a folder, zwrap, and I'm going to call this one child points version, and then hit save, and then I'm going to go save here and say parent points save. And now we can go to wrapping and we can hit start wrap. Okay, so it says that the wrapping process is finished. And we can see here the result of the wrap. So we now have that XYZ geo perfectly wrapped onto my base mesh. It doesn't need to be perfect because this is just it's just our way of projecting the texture data onto mine. So this won't be my new topology. But if you wanted it to be, it totally could be. but I'm just using it as a basis of transferring. So if you're happy with what you see, there are some areas like here which could use a little bit of cleanup, but I think it should be fine. And then we can hit done. And then we have it. So that's the XYZ one, and that's my base mesh. At a higher resolution though, so that's mine, that's the XYZ. Okay, great. So now we can jump into Mari and we can start projecting these maps across. Okay, so I'm now here in Mari and I have two objects. So we have the child here and we have the parent here. So what this will allow us to do is import the XYZ maps on this surface and see how they look. So here I have channels and the channels palette and the layers palette open. So we'll create a new channel here and we'll call it diffuse. Make sure it's 16K because we're dealing with 16K maps. I'm going to make it 8-bit. I think they're provided in 32-bit, but this is just color data. So I'm just going to leave it at 8-bit to save on memory. And then I'm just going to make sure it's set to automatic sRGB because the color map is a sRGB map. So I'm going to create that channel. You can see it pop up here. And then down here I can go import, right click import into new layer. And then we have the EXR here. I also made a JPEG because I was doing some testing, but you should just have the EXR, and then I can go import selected patches. And here you can see the result. So as I was showing earlier, they're really high-res maps. We have a lot of fantastic detail here, really quite accurate in terms of like diffuse information, a lot of variation, natural variation as well. So yeah, that's the diffuse, and you can see the scalps being done as well, and the ears and things like that. So then we can create another channel. So this one will be the DISP, and I'm just going to be doing the DISP multi-channel just because I'm not going to use the calibrated. And then we can set this to, I think it also comes in 32-bit, so let's set it to that. And then we want to make sure that this is set to linear, which it is. I just like to click scalar data there just to make sure. But yeah, then we can create it. And then the exact same process of right-clicking import, and then we can bring in the multi-channel mid 50 import selected patches. Okay, so this one's kind of difficult to see, but if we go to flat mode, you can see we have the detail there. The information is there to be transferred, so that's great. We have one more to do, and that's the utility. I'm going to call this util. This map is actually only 8K, so we'll set it like so, and then I'm just going to make this one 16-bit. I think 32-bit's a bit overkill for this utility map. And then making sure that it's linear with scalar data. And then we just right-click import, find the utility, and then we will import all patches. Import selected. It doesn't really matter because I've only got one patch selected here. So now that we have our 3 channels, I can probably delete this base channel. But now we'll go through and we'll start projecting these one by one onto our other object here. So we can make both visible. I don't think it matters if they are visible or not, but yeah, I recommend not doing them all at once. So we right click on the channel, go to transfer, and then we want to set the destination object to the AO2 parent version. And then we can grab the diffuse, push it across, and then hit OK. So now I've gone through and just done all of the maps here. So you can see if I go to channels, we have color, and then we have displacement and util, and so these have all been transferred over. So if I go between the objects here, you can see these are the UVs. This is the mesh and UVs provided by XYZ, and now this is my UVs. So mine are quite high res. I've got them across 6 8K tiles. This may be overkill for what you're doing, but yeah, it's just how I've successfully set it up. So now it's just a case of baking these out. So if I go back to ortho, turn off the original, so now we're just looking at my mesh, which has the 6 UDIMs. Select all of the UDIMs, and then we can now we can go to the channels and we can right click color and then go export flattened, export current channel flattened, go to a location to put that, textures, call this diff, give it the correct naming, and then export all patches. Okay, so now you can go through and export the other two. I'm not going to do it here just to save time. And then I'm going to jump into my actual texturing scene for my character, where we can bring this map in, these maps in, and then start using them in my proper texturing scene. So here I am in my texturing scene for this character. This is currently using one of the TexturingXYZ multi-channel packs to get this result. I'm now in a node-based workflow, so we can hit P here for a paint node. I'm just going to keep it at 8K for now, 8-bit because it's color data, and then I want it to be sRGB, so turning off scalar data, hit OK. So now we have a paint node. So I can select the regions where I want to import this. So just on these ones, because that's all we projected to. And then I can right click. Let's actually hit 1 on the keyboard so we're viewing this map, this node. And then we can right click and go, actually let's also, if we recreate it, let's make it transparent so it doesn't actually have a color. So it's easy to overlay this with another node. So then I can rename this, let's call it VFace paint. And now we can right click, file, import, find where we output those maps, and then import selected patches. Let's make sure we're viewing that by hitting 1 on the keyboard. And now we can see this map on my model. Let's now integrate this into what I already have painted here. So this is just a bunch of work in progress where I've projected the skin, I've projected nearly the whole body, and then I've got a bunch of fixes here which I've just done through the process. I have a cleaned up version here that I've prepared earlier just so this doesn't become a massive tutorial, but basically what it is it's the body projection that I did, then with the XYZ, this map here that you see right now, and then I did some touch-ups. So I'm just going to disable all these maps so we just see the raw result of the maps coming from XYZ without any tweaks on my part. Then we just need to bring this one over and plug this node into here. Then I'm going to go back to my shader, and I want to visualize the Arnold shader to see it in context. Okay. So here it is. And as you can see, there's a lot more going on here in terms of detail and variation and just the information that we have here on the skin. It's really quite awesome. It's some really great information. So the cleanups that I've done is I wanted this female character to have, I guess, less blemishes, and this character just in particular had some moles and like skin issues and things like that. So I just wanted to cover those up a bit. So if I hit D on the keyboard, you can see those disappear. It's probably better if I just run the opacity back and forth here, and you can see what I've removed. And I cleaned up a bit on the lip there. You can see just here as well. I cleaned that up as well. So that's just quite a subtle update. And then the inner eyes, I found them to be a little too saturated. So I just added my own value basically to the inner eye there, just which gives a more realistic result. And then the last one was just a slight increase in saturation. So yeah, I've just like changed the color here slightly, and then it's just a case of multiplying that over what I had before, just because I wanted to rebalance the skin a little. So with all that done, I can now bake this out, and we can see how it looks in the rendering engine. Okay, so here we are in my Maya scene. Here's my character set up with a groom, and the shaders are all set up and everything, but all I need to do is come in here and swap out make sure that I have the latest color map, spec roughness map, and I have my displacement map plugged in here. Now the displacement, I'm using the multi-channel, and so when doing that, I reset the mid value to 0 by adding this plus minus and setting it to -0.5. And then I have multiply nodes here where I've balanced these at certain levels to give me a result that I like. And I've found with these new maps that TexturingXYZ has created, the primary map actually ends up being the blue, whereas in the past the more primary map was usually like the red and the green. So it just takes a little bit of balancing work, but this is like the levels of intensity that I've found between my RG and B channels for the displacement. Okay, so now that we have that set up, we can go in and check out the render. I did the render previously so I didn't have to sit here and watch it render, but yeah, this is the result. And as you can see, we have all that really nice detail. This is a really high-res render. I think I'm rendering it roughly 4K, but it really allows you to see the sort of detail we can get here. I also have a peach fuzz, which I'm in the middle of adding at the moment. But yeah, it really just shows you the detail here in the lips and in the skin and in the nose and things like that. Obviously, I've used some of the other maps like the utility maps, and I also use the displacement to kind of work on my specular roughness here. But so yeah, it's basically the diffuse and the displacement that we were projecting previously, just with those few small tweaks, which is fine. Like I always end up tweaking the maps in some way to direct them towards a look that I'm going for. So I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of using this new VFace product from TexturingXYZ, and I look forward to seeing what people come up with using this new product.